Hello, I am Giorgio Navalny. I happen to be a vascular surgeon, one of the best in the country. I've been at the top of my career for over 15 years. I overheard Giorgio say to the beautiful young lady as she sat with a group of her friends ignoring the man, "I make roughly $15 million." He continued. I knew this would not go well. Giorgio was a man who was not turned down often. He's in his early 40s, handsome, confident, and most of all, rich. "What is your name? Maybe I can buy you a drink and we can talk some." Giorgio said, extended out his hand. "Look, I'm with my friends and I don't really care who you are. Not interested? Go away." The lady said, waving him off like a common servant. She should have been paying attention. Maybe she would have seen the anger. Maybe she would have seen the hatred build up in his eyes. Then she would have known she was in danger. "I see you with your friends," Giorgio said, refusing to back down. "I overheard you guys talking about doctors and how they couldn't afford women of your caliber and how most of them are broke. I just wanted to add my 2 cents." She stopped and finally stood up and looked him in the eye as she waved for security. "I would never. 15 million a year is chump change. Do you even have a yacht or a helicopter? You sound broke, and you're proving my point. Doctors do not make enough to take care of my needs. I need a CEO or somebody that makes at least 100 million a year. I need a boss, the owner of the hospital, like my dad." By this time, security was right behind Giorgio and put a hand on his shoulder. As the girl giggled and laughed at his embarrassment, security started to lead him out the door before he got a chance to respond. Giorgio moved with the men to the door without a fuss. As he was pushed outside and told not to come back, he slowly made his way to his car. The all-black Rolls-Royce Phantom sat parked in the shadows as the moon shined overhead and the breeze blew gently through the streets. Time passed as the night-goers bled out into the street. The woman Giorgio was waiting on came out and hopped inside the back of a black SUV. He smiled because she was alone, with just the driver to accompany her. So as the SUV pulled off, Giorgio was right behind, and so was his shadow, as it never left his side. Giorgio drove with his lights off behind the SUV. He didn't want to alert anyone too soon. The drive was not too long and mostly in wooded areas. He stopped and pulled off the road before the driver of the SUV pulled up to the big mansion with the double gates. The gates opened and the SUV proceeded to enter the mansion grounds. Giorgio hopped out of his car, removing the bag from the passenger seat, then proceeded to scale the wall and enter the grounds of the mansion. Shadow was close behind, silent in the night. As the woman made her way inside the mansion, the SUV stayed parked outside. After 20 minutes, it was clear to Giorgio that the man was not going anywhere. He came out of his hiding spot, donned his balaclava, and quietly approached the SUV from its blind spot. The driver's side window was down. You could see the smoke coming out. He must have been smoking a cigarette. Giorgio's approach startled his driver. Giorgio quickly placed the blade inside the driver's neck. Blood splattered all over the front dash and the windshield. Smoothly and quickly, he removed the blade and made his way around the car. As the driver took his last breath, Giorgio stood back and looked at the mansion, trying to pinpoint his target in the large house. He seen a light downstairs, so he approached the front door, turned the knob which was unlocked. He pulled a syringe out of a small bag and made his way inside. There was a loud crash and a scream. Then everything went silent. Minutes later, Giorgio moved swiftly out the front door to the SUV, the woman over his shoulder. He threw her in the back seat, and Giorgio made his way to the passenger seat. He started the car and reached his leg across to the gas and slowly maneuvered the SUV towards the main gate. After a moment, the gates opened, and he proceeded to head towards his own vehicle as he stashed the SUV deep in the woods. The phantom came to life as he pulled the car into the streets, and Shadow followed close behind. With the beautiful young lady in the back seat unconscious, Giorgio made his way to the main road and out of the city. As dawn approached, Giorgio came to a cabin by the lake. There was a barn in the back, which he pulled his car into and closed the doors. There wasn't another soul around. This had to be the perfect spot. Shadow moved closer, listening carefully at the barn doors. There was nothing to be heard. He looked for another way in and found a window, which he carefully slipped into. A big open space with just a couple of cars. The phantom was one of them. He looked around carefully and listened profusely. He heard faint sobbing sounds which seemed to be coming from below him. He seen a small hatch that led down. He carefully maneuvered his way down the ladder. With his gun in hand, he looked around the dimly lit area. He saw cages with young girls in them, mostly unconscious. He walked over, hoping it was his wife, Emily Shadow. Emily is dead now. Heard Shadow whisper. After the investigation to find his wife led nowhere, he followed the only suspect for a full year. Now he stood in the madman's lair, gun in hand, whispering for his wife. As he walked towards each cage, one woman was conscious, ran to him. Please, I beg you, please help me. She rambled on as she grabbed his shirt. He promised he would help her. He promised he would get all of them out. He just needed to find his wife. He just needed to. As he felt a pinch in his neck, he turned to look at the darkness engulf him. When he woke up, he was naked, hanging upside down, Giorgio in front of him. Herbert, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I never had your wife. That one the cops made a mistake about. Now you're going to die, never knowing what happened to your wife. Got to be more careful. Brick Wall Stories.